So this is 2018 paper 2 and this is question 8. So here you have the diagram shows a section of a garden divided into 3 parts. In the diagram, P to R, which is this section here, is 3.3. Then you have P to Q is 6.5. Q to T are equal to Q to S. Okay, so you can mark that if you want to say that they are equal in measure and they're about 8 meters. Then you have Q or P is 90 degrees, and then you know that P, Q, or is alpha, and that or Q, S here is beta. So these are all included in your diagram. So for the first one here, use the theorem of Pythagoras to find or to Q. So you know that this is for right angle triangles only, and you write down the formula. So a squared plus b squared is equal to c squared, or you might have c squared is equal to a squared plus b squared. That's the same thing. Okay, this works for right angle triangles only. C must be your hypotenuse, which is the longer side, which is across from the right angle. So I'm just going to fill in the pieces of information here. So I'm going to label this as A, this is B, and this is C. So it doesn't matter which one's A or B because they're both the same and they're both around the right angle. C has to be across from the right angle. That's really, really important. So all I'm going to do here is write 3.3 to be squared plus b squared is equal to 6.5 squared. And once you put that into your calculator, you will end up with your answers for each one. So in order to find b squared then, what you can do is do the 6.5 squared minus your 3.3 squared and put that into your calculator, and you'll get an answer of 31.36. Or what you could have done is the 3.3 squared, find your answer, and 6.5 to be squared, find your answer, and then taking them away. But this is just a different way of answering it. Your last step then is, if you know that b squared is equal to 31.36, then to do the opposite, find what b is, square root it. So that means that b is equal to 5.6, and I'm just going to round that to one decimal place. So I'm going to keep it as 5.6, and that is in meters. Okay. For part B then, so they're asking you to show that this angle here is 31 degrees. So trying to find what that is. So it's a right angle triangle. So it means that you can use SO, CA, or TOA. So you can use sin, cos, or tan. So here what I'm going to do is label the parts of my triangle. So this is the angle I'm looking for. So this must be the opposite as a result. This is always the hypotenuse because it's across from the right angle. And you can see that this is the adjacent side, and I have no information for that one, so I'm going to ignore it. So that's A, but because I have no information, I'm going to ignore it, as I said. So O and H means that you're going to use sin. So you're going to write sin of the angle, which you don't know what it is. And that is your opposite over your hypotenuse. That's a H. And then fill in what you can. So sin of the angle is equal to the opposite, which is 3.3 over the hypotenuse, which is 6.5. And what you should realize by now is to find an angle, you must do the inverse. So I'm going to put 3.3 as over 6.5, but I'm going to make sure that on my calculator I do shift sin, and I'll come up with sin minus 1. So that's the inverse, and it does 3.3 over 6.5. You can use the fraction function at that stage, and you will get an answer of 30.51 degrees, and they wanted the nearest degree, so that is 31 degrees. For part B then, you can see that alpha and beta, they create a straight line. So as a result, they must add up to 180. So in order to find beta, I'm going to do 180 minus 31, and that's going to give me an answer of 149 degrees. So that's what beta is. For part D, it's telling you to use the cosine rule straight away. So that is what I'm going to do. And in your formula tables, it's a squared is equal to b squared plus c squared minus 2bc cos of a. So, and that is for the length of R to S, and R to S is here. So they're asking me to find that side here, and we found in the previous question that this was 5.6, and we have the 8 there, and we know that beta here, this angle, is 149 degrees. Okay, so that's in there. So we know that the cosine rule only ever works for side angle side. So I must make sure to have that relationship. So that's why I filled in the 5.6 and the 8 and the 149. So when you're filling in your labels of your cosine rule, A is always across from the angle, B and C then just surround the angle, and they're the sides from the side angle side. So I'm just going to fill it into my formula. So A is still what I'm looking for. B is now 5.6, that's b squared, and then C is 8, that's 8b squared, and then I do minus 2 times 5.6 by 8 by the cos of 149. So even if you didn't opt to put in the cos of 149, you should really fill in as much as you can of your formula. Even writing down the formula will give you marks in the exam. Then what you can do is put this all into your calculator. Once you put that all into your calculator, you will get that a squared is equal to 172.16. Do the opposite, square root it. So 172.16, when you square root that, you will end up with an answer of 13.12. And they want your answer to the nearest meter, so A is equal to 13 meters. So for part E here, they're asking you for SQT is the sector of a circle whose center is Q. Find the length of the arc. So the arc is like the crust of your pizza. It's the outer part. So it's this part here. So what we're going to do is we're going to use our circumference formula, but we're only going to use a part of it. So we're going to put the angle over 360 and then multiply it by 2 pi r, because that is our formula for the circumference of a circle, which is in our formula tables. The angle here is 31 degrees because it's vertically opposite alpha. So put 31 over 360 and multiply it by 2 by pi, and the radius there is 8. It didn't say to use anything else for pi, so I'm keeping pi as pi. And then I'm just going to put it into my calculator. I end up with 4.328, and it's asked me to round it to 1 decimal place, so that is 4.3 meters. For the last part then, they're asking you to find the area of the sector. So that's like the toppings on your pizza, so the whole slice. So this time the angle, because it's only a proportion of it, goes over 360 again. Now we multiply by pi r squared, which is the area of a circle. So this angle is still 31. Put it over 360, multiply by pi, because it didn't say to use anything different. Your 8 is still your radius, and when you put that into your calculator, you will end up with 17.3 meters squared, this time to 1 decimal place.